The Stono Rebellion by Tawan Gordon. Prelude to Rebellion. The Stono Rebellion did not just come out of nowhere. It was caused by a conclave of factors, such as the state being majority black at the time, and recently more slaves being imported from African kingdoms and states in Africa, such as the Kingdom of Condom, which the rebellion leaders of the Stono Rebellion were imported from, and other things such as plagues caused umbrage with the black population of South Carolina, making the state ripe for a rebellion soon to come. So these things had a big impact on the Stono Rebellion that was soon to happen. The causes of the Stono Rebellion were thus: the punishments that were given to the enslaved people of South Carolina had recently gotten far crueler and worse than even for that horrendous time period in that place in that time period. So the slave uprising of the Stono Rebellion was partially caused by this increased hostility to the slaves, but it was also the Stono Rebellion was also incited by the Spanish, who were at war with England at the time, and the Spanish had put out an edict which stated that any enslaved person from any of the English colonies who could make the trip to St. Augustine after their escape from their slave masters would be a free man, would be a free person. So this caused a lot of discussion in the enslaved communities about how to enact this. The start of the rebellion. The Stono Rebellion would begin on September the 9th, 1739, by a group of about a group of 20 recently imported Congolese slaves, whose numbers would soon swell to around 80 enslaved people who were trying to get to the city of St. Augustine in the Spanish colony of Florida. The Stono Rebellion's first victims would be some clerks in a general store on the side of the Stono River Bridge. And soon, this path of destruction of the enslaved people would go further down the bridge and into some villages and some other innocent victims would be involved in the event of the Stono Rebellion. The immediate fallout of the Stono Rebellion. After some initial success in killing white civilians and local militia, the Stono Rebellion was soon put down by a posse gathered by the then Lieutenant Governor of South Carolina, William Bull. The leaders of the slave uprising, such as Jimmy, a Congolese slave, were killed in the final major conflict of the Stono Rebellion. Stragglers in the revival of the final battle of the Stono Rebellion were soon found and were either hanged in slavery again by their masters or sold down south, or in one outstanding case freed, but the vast majority of the survivors of the Stono Rebellion were killed, and thus ended the Stono Rebellion, but not its impact. The last impact of the Stono Rebellion. The Stono Rebellion was a short-lived revolt, but its impact would be long-lasting. The lasting effect that would have would be by the installation of the slave code by the South Carolina state legislature. What the slave code did essentially was heavily restrict the movement and the right to assembly of the enslaved people of South Carolina, and the enslaved people in South Carolina's ability to get away from the prying white eyes of their masters and overseers, thus making open rebellion, or open revolt far more difficult, if not impossible. This would be the lasting impact of the South Carolina Stono Rebellion up until the abolition of slavery in the Civil War. These slave codes would be law for another 60 years, another 60 odd years, thus making the Stono Rebellion one of the most impactful events in the history of South Carolina.